Hi guys, I'm going to show you how to do this population data form activity. So starting right here, I've made a copy of the original thing, and first things first, let's name it the right way. I don't want it to be copy of something, I want it to be my name. My name is Mr. Janowski. So we're going with that. Now we've got this largely blank little table up here, and we've got to do several things here. So if I come down here, so this is cell B21. I want this cell to be the total of the entire population. So I want this cell right here to be equal to all of these numbers added together. Now, you could, if you wanted to, but this would be wrong in this case, take a calculator, add all those numbers together, and write in the number, but that will be silly. You're going to see why. What we want to do is take advantage of one of the built in functions that a spreadsheet has. In particular, it's called the sum function, SUM, sum. So here I am again in cell B21. I want this to be the total of all the cells above it. So I'm going to use a formula. I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to start to type the word sum. You see it's like auto-filling. It's kind of guessing what we want. I'm actually going to do it kind of manually. So I typed equals sum, open parentheses, and now I have to tell it what I want it to be the sum of. So I'm going to select everything from B20 up to B4. So if you see what it says right here, equals sum, parentheses, B4 colon B20, and you see what's highlighted, that's what we want it to sum. Notice I didn't grab 2015 above it because that's not a population group. That's the year that we're starting this in. So at this point, you should close the parentheses or not. It actually doesn't care. I'm just going to hit enter. All right. And see, it's trying to autofill this. It's trying to guess what I want the other cells to be. Hit X. We don't want that. So important thing about spreadsheets. Here I am in cell B21, and there's the answer. If I added up all of these numbers here, you end up with 48,350. The important thing is here in the cell, there's the answer. If I go up here, this is the formula bar. It's telling me how it calculated that cell using that formula. That's going to be important in a second. So there we go. I have the sum right there. Now in cell B22, notice right here it says females that give birth. So each of the groups we're doing has a rule. So we're doing group A. The rule for group A, if we look up here, is that every woman ages 15 to 19 is going to have 5 children. So I need to know, first of all, how many women are there in this group age 15 to 19? So I go up to here. Here's 15 to 19. And there's 5,000 total people in this age group, only half of whom are women. So I want to use a formula down here. So for females that give birth, I'm going to go equals, always start a formula or equation with equals. Now I want to reference the cell B17 right here. This is the one that has the 5,000 people in it. Notice down here it's saying equals B17. And I want to cut this number in half. So I'm going to use divide by 2, and then I'm going to hit enter. So it says 2,500, which is in fact half of 5,000. Now, once again, let me just emphasize this. In this cell, B22, it says 2,500. That is the answer. If I go back up here to the formula bar, it's showing me how it got there. It's taking cell B17 and dividing by 2. So now we come down to new births. Okay, well, how many new births will we have out of this group? Remember, the rule for group A is that each woman is going to have 5 children. Each woman that has children each female that gives birth is going to have 5 kids. So I want this cell to be equal to the cell above it times 5. So I start with an equals. Now I want to reference the cell above it. So I click on that cell. You could also type B22. That works as well. And now I want to multiply. The way you multiply in a spreadsheet is with the asterisk button, the star button. So that's Shift 8. That gives you the star. Then you hit 5. And then you hit enter. And so 5 times 2,500 gives you 12,500. And once again, here's the answer. And then up here in the formula bar, that's how it got there. All right, so for 2015, we're done. We've got all these guys. Now we have to start thinking about what happens in the future years. So these 12,500 new births, who will they be in 5 years from now in the year 2020? These will be the age group 0 to 4. So I want this cell here to go up to here. So the way I do that is here in cell C20, I'm going to type equals, and I want to reference the cell that I just did. So it says equals B23. If I hit enter, that cell becomes 12,500. And now we want to think of the other groups. All right, so where will 2020 get its 5 to 9? These people will be the people who were 0 to 4 5 years earlier. So I want this cell here to be equal to this cell here. So here I am in cell C19. I'm going to type equals, and then just to show you that you can do it this way too, I'm going to type B, doesn't have to be capital, B20. So equals B20, enter. Cool. So now this cell here, 10,000, is equal to this cell here. So far we haven't done a whole lot. You're about to see why spreadsheets are such a useful and powerful thing. So think of the next cell up. These are the 10 to 14. Where did these guys come from? Well, these people were 5 to 9 5 years earlier. The cell above that, 15 to 19, these guys were 10 to 14 5 years earlier. So we have the same basic pattern going on here. In each age group 5 years later, you want it to be equal to 5 years earlier, 5 years younger, if that makes sense. Basically, I want this cell to be one cell to the left and down. I want this cell to be equal to one cell on the left and down, just the same way that this cell C19 is. So instead of going in there and typing them all or clicking them all, we're going to take advantage of what's called super select, or at least I call it super select. I think there's actually a different name for it, but I call it super select. So watch carefully what I'm doing here. If I hover the mouse over the middle of the cell, I have a regular cursor. If I go over the border, you get the hand, but ignore that. So I've got the regular cursor. It's the little arrow right here. Watch what happens if I hover over the little blue square at the bottom right corner. It goes from being a cursor to being a plus. On some screens, it would end up being like a crosshairs, like a target sign. So this is super select. So what you want to do is hover over here, make sure that your cursor changed, hold down, and select this up. I'm going to select it all the way up to here. I'm going to let it go. And look what happens. It took the formula that I put in here into cell C19, and it applied that idea to every cell above it. So C19 is equal to B20. If I go up to C19 and look up here in the formula, it's saying, I'm sorry, if I go up to C18, that's equal to B19. If I go one up, this cell is equal to B18. So it applied that idea all the way across. That's the power of using super select and why it's so useful to use formulas. So we're about to expand that idea all the way across the whole table. So this is why spreadsheets are very, very useful. This cell here, I want this to be the total of all the cells above it. So I could type in equals sum and all that, but I don't have to because I've already done that in this cell over here to the left. This cell already has equals sum parentheses B4 colon B20. I just want to apply that idea straight to the right. So I'm going to go over this little guy here. I'm going to super select this all the way out here to the right. So I'm dropping it off at cell, what's that, G21. And I'm going to let it go. And it's giving me the totals all the way across. So here I am in C21. This is the total of all the cells above it. And that's, the right answer for this one. If I go to the next cells, it says 0 because it's totaling all the cells above it, but those are all blank. So the formula in this cell is correct. The data above it is wrong, so that's why it's wrong. That's actually going to fix itself automatically, which is kind of cool. So we've got that. Same idea down here. Females that give birth. All right, I want this to be, well, let me start here. I want this to be the 15 to 19-year-olds divided by 2, but I have that idea already right here in this cell. So instead of typing it again, I'm going to grab this guy here, and I'm going to super select it across and let it go. So 3,250, this is equal to, if I click on the cell, it's telling me this is equal to C17 divided by 2. So that's the right answer. And then once again, in group A, every female that gives birth is going to have 5 kids. So I want this cell to be equal to the one above it times 5, but I'm not going to type the formula because I already did in this cell. I'm just going to super select this sideways. So now we've got that. So now this cell here, this is column C. This whole column is correct. They've got all the right formulas. And once again, these are all zeros because the cells above them are all blank, but we're about to fix that. Now remember, these new births in the year 2020, these guys are going to be the 0 to 4-year-olds in 2025. And I have that idea already typed into this cell, so I'm just going to take this guy, super select this guy sideways, and then it's right there. So clicking on this cell, if you check the formula bar up here, it says equals C23, which is what we want. And then we've got that same idea. I want this cell here to be the 0 to 4-year-olds. I want this cell here to be the 5 to 9-year-olds. So I want to do that same thing. I already have that idea here. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to super select it all the way across. So that fills in. I've got one of them. Notice that this is all still highlighted. So if I take it at this point and super select it all the way up and let it go, it fills in all of these cells for me. So it did all of that work very, very quickly. So I have all of these. Each cell, if I click on them, it's showing me the correct formula up here in the formula bar. Everything's all right. It did all of this work for us very, very quickly. So now Group A is done. When you go on to Group B, remember here was Group A. Each woman ages 15 to 19 has 5 kids. Group B is a slightly different rule. It's every woman 25 to 29 has 5 kids. So you're going to do a very similar thing, but it's going to be a different group of females that gives birth. Group C has its own rule. It's the 15 to 19-year-olds again, but this time they're only having 2 kids. Group D, 25 to 29, 2 kids. So we've got that. And let me quickly show you how we finish the rest of this. So Group A is now done. I've got all of these. If I go over to this part here for this assignment, I'm calling these the middle tables. It's not perfectly clear now to you why we want to do this, but it'll become clear when we're actually drawing the population tables. For a reason that you don't quite see yet, I want to make a column here that is equal to half of my population in the year 2015. So I want this cell here to be equal to this cell here divided by 2. So here I am in cell I4. I'm going to type equals. I'm going to reference cell B4. And I want this cell divided by 2. So I'm going to hit divide by 2. And I'm going to hit enter. Which is what I want. Now, again, it's autofilling. It's suggesting an autofill. It's trying to guess what I want it to do. Hit X because it's going a little bit too far with this. This is almost correct, but not quite correct. So here we are in 50. And I want to apply this idea all the way down throughout this whole column. So I'm going to super select it all the way down. And I do that. And if I click on any one of these cells, so here I am in I20, here the number says 5,000. And if I look at the formula bar, it's saying equals B20 divided by 2. It's showing me how it got that, which is, 10,000 divided by 2. So we have that. So I've just done that for 2015. So here's the 2015 age groups divided by 2. Now I want the 2040 groups divided by 2. So I'm going to hit equals here in cell J4. I'm going to click on cell G4. This is my 80-plus-year-olds in the year 2040. I'm going to divide by 2. Enter. And it's trying to guess the autofill. I don't want it to. But this is the right number. 450 is, in fact, equal to 900 divided by 2. So now I want to take this. I want to super select it all the way down. And we have that. So after you do the other groups, you want to set up this table for the other guys too. And then one more thing we want to do, all the way over here on the right, these are my total populations, just the total populations for each of my groups in 2015, 2020, et cetera, out to the year 2040. So I have like this information here, like these cells here. I want all of these to be equal to my totals over here. So the way that I do that is here in cell L4, I'm going to type equals, and I just want this straight equals to this cell down here. Again, it's trying to guess what I want it to do. It's guessing poorly, so ignore that. I want cell L4 to be equal to cell B21, so I'm going to click that. Now that says equal to B21. I'm going to hit enter, and I have the same number, 48,350. Well, that is what cell B21 has, so there it is. So now that I have that, I want to take this, super select this all the way out to the right and let it go. And it's hard to see because they don't all fit on the same screen. But these 6 numbers right here, these are exactly equal to these 6 numbers right here. And then after you do group B, you can do the same thing. Group C and group D, you do the same thing and fill the whole thing out. So hopefully you guys found that helpful.